So the rest listening, I'll leave it up there. This is more of maybe a practical tool to think through, and maybe some of you already have thought through. But your week. So I'm just going to share kind of how Hannah and I do this. We don't think it's maybe necessarily the plans that are the most important, but the process of planning and communicating with one another, what we are doing, communicating with others, what we are doing, and setting it out there so there's intentionality. In our house, we have two kind of calendars. We have one on a whiteboard on a wall, and it has 21 days on it. They're just kind of across Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the date, and then we'll write little things that, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, for those days, so that we're aware and communicating about those. And then we have a paper calendar that we keep track of gospel shares and training and any other life events. But one of the helpful things for us is normally it's on our Sabbath, I'll go to the calendar and try and look into the next week of what we have going. So this is kind of what our week looks like. And I know there's seasons when that changes. But our week always looks like intentional actions to accomplish the goals for that season. So we want to be doing things intentionally in our week to accomplish the goals that we have set. So if we start here with, I'm going to start my week with Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. We have morning, afternoon, evening. So Monday for us is our Sabbath day. And Sabbath looks like for us very similar to what you talked about, Bud. It's physical resting. It's usually sometimes sleeping in, or sometimes we'll get up early to go do something. Sometimes we're hanging out with family on that day, just because that's what's restful for us. Sometimes it's just by ourselves. One time we went down to the Wichita Mountains and hiked. Normally it is, though, not communicating with any of our Timothys or churches or disciples or anything outside of us, taking phone calls. And sometimes, there's on occasion where it's just like, I had to take a phone call, or Hannah had to make a call. But we're pretty guarded with our Mondays.
We'll try to. Sometimes we'll read through books together during Ellie's nap. We'll listen to sermons together. We'll study a book of Bible together.
Yeah.
Just looks. So that day's not. It's kind of fun because we don't what do you want to do today?
It's so
it's
and it really helps us look forward to that day. There's a couple people on our team who don't take this day, and it concerns us because they continuously almost come to the point of burnout. So we're trying to set the model. Tuesdays, in the mornings, I meet with, I guess you could call it my Timothys at coffee. And then from about 11 till, what did I get off at, 4 on Tuesdays?
9 on Tuesdays. 9 to 5.
Oh yeah, because he changed it because, that's right. So Dave just changed it. So 9 to 5, I'm working up at Tide, and then at night we have the Jesus group or church that meets in Marksville. And then also on Tuesday night, late night, I have a coaching call with a guy in Toronto. So Tuesday is a packed day. So Timothy time, work, and Jesus group. Wednesday, I'm normally, I'm going to highlight real quick. Just work. Wednesday, and again, sometimes my work schedule changes, but this is usually the schedule. Wednesday again is 9 to about 5. Sometimes I work till 7 on Wednesday, and then on Wednesday nights, Hannah and I usually eat together at home.
We used to have church in my sister's home. It just ended in January, so we haven't filled.
So this is now an open space for us where we're asking the Lord, what should we do? So some Wednesday nights we've invited people over. I remember last Wednesday night we went and ate at Derek and Andrew's house, who are going to start a church in Iowa City. We were doing different things with this time slot, trying to get something else happening. So now that it's free for 8-9 months.
Not for the sake of to have something, but.
Yeah, but just for the sake of, we're trying to make disciples and multiply churches across the city. So we're trying to use that time, whatever the Spirit leads. And if God brings something that's stable in our rhythm for that next season for there, then that'll be taken up. But right now, we'll just call it Holy Spirit time. Because there's really no plans. It's just kind of based on the week. And also, obviously, in the mornings, I've been trying to spend time abiding, and I've been doing that a little bit at night before bed too. But where our goal has been 30 minutes to an hour in prayer total a day. So, and on Mondays, my goal has been 2 hours of abiding time. So that's happening the morning and the evenings. Thursday we have church, Fountains Family Church, at my parents' house in the evenings. And again, I'm working 9 to 5.
No, you get off at 3, baby.
No, 9 to 3. I'm sorry.
7 to 3. Because you meet with a prayer group.
Oh yeah.
In there.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So we have on Thursday afternoons at 4. We have it's kind of like the Timothy meeting, but it's just prayer. We really just get to Panera and we pray for an hour. And that's been a big on-ramp for other pastors in the community to come, and they'll pray with us and hear what we're praying about, and then they'll be interested. So then we do Fountains Family Church, which is the church that meets in my parents' home. Friday I work 8, many times it's 8 to 4. And then Friday evening is again another time when it's open. We'll either pick somewhere to go on the harvest, or try and go over to someone's house to eat dinner, or maybe we're traveling that weekend and going on training. Saturday we have no churches meeting on Saturday, but Holy Spirit again. And normally Saturday is very focused on trying to be in the harvest. We've seen most of the people are home. We can go door to door. And you guys probably know this as well, but Saturday's a really good day to find people at home and share the gospel and offer prayer. And then Sunday morning we have church. We used to have Central Church Sunday morning, but now Central Church is at night. Or at night, but now it's in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I've been with Timothy and Shawnee, and so we've been trying to make it a rhythm for me to either go out to Shawnee or figure out some time for us to spend time together, or spend time in the harvest. So last week there was after church, we spent time in about 2 hours, and it was us, Zach and Stacia, Daniel and Danielle, and we knocked out 2 full streets in the square mile. It was like a army.
Blitz.
But yeah, we got to share the gospel over 50 times. It was really super encouraging. Central Church is what we would consider our church where we're really being poured into. The Jesus Group and Fountains Family Church, these are 2 churches that we are more doing pouring into. And then Hannah has other things that she'll put on or whenever she's meeting with the different girls that she's discipling as well.
Carter's at work.
Yeah, while I'm at work. So this is kind of what our rhythm looks like. There's hopefully a balance of rest, of working for the season for God to provide, but then we try to spend intentional time both being poured into at churches and starting churches. And I know in every season the rhythm will change, but it's been helpful for Hannah and I to be able to establish a rhythm in our life and communicate with one another, so that I'm not just running all over the place. Like Hannah normally knows after I get off work on Thursdays at 3, I'm going to go to the prayer meeting. And so she's not surprised when I don't come home an hour and a half later to pick her up and then go to church at my parents' house. She knows where I'm at. And so it's helped avoid areas of conflict in our marriage because we know what each other are doing. It's helped us be intentional of looking forward to things like not only rest but times of harvest. Like we're like, all right, Saturday we're going to get to go out with Zach and Stacia or Danielle and Daniel or Dave and Ann, and we're going to do a lot of harvesting time or follow-up time from last week's harvest time. So I wanted to model this for you guys to say, I don't know if it's personality is an excuse. I know some people are OCD and they love scheduling, but I think there is something in it for everyone to have some kind of rhythm in your life for whatever season. Because I think if we aren't aiming at, if we're not aiming at something, we're gonna shoot for anything, right? And we're just gonna settle. And I've met a lot of people, especially in Oklahoma City, like, well, I don't have any structure in my life. I just kind of follow the Spirit, and I understand that. But the sun does go up and it goes down, so there's a time for sleeping, a time to wake. The farmer, he rises during the day and sleeps at night. He goes out to his field and he has different seasons where he's sowing, seasons where he's allowing it to grow, and an intentional time of gathering, a time of resting for the next season to begin so he can sow more. And so I know there's different seasons, but with each season in our life where Jesus has us, we should have a different rhythm that we're trying to, especially if you're married. And who all is not married in the room? Okay, so somebody's not married. And then who all is married? Everybody else. Okay, gotcha. So I loved even when I was a bachelor, I had a super rhythm, and I just loved it because I got to work out a lot, and it just felt so structured. But maybe that's my personality. But I feel like I'm doing this more now, less because I'm OCD and more because I really want to serve and love Hannah and be on the same page with her about our priorities. And this should reflect your priorities.
But also the nice thing about having a set rhythm is that since Carter's working a specific time, we only have certain time for intentional time, and so since we have a rhythm, when there's extra people that are wanting our time, we can already say, you know what, let's sit down, I'd love to figure out a time to hang out. Right now my week is full, this is what I have these days, but I'm sure we can figure something out. And so it is nice for if there's extra people that are trying to buy your time, but really maybe they're not, it's just not the season for that, for them. You can say like, well, I don't know.
I think it's helpful. It was something I was wanting to hit on as well, is having this allows you to have immediate times. If people want to jump on board, I can be like, well, hey, you can come to Tuesday Night Jesus Group, or Thursday night Fountains Family Church, or Sunday morning at Central Church, or hey, we hit the harvest on Saturdays, or hey, we do a prayer meeting on Thursday afternoons or Tuesday mornings. What do you want to be a part of? And if they're like, well, that doesn't work for me, I'm like, okay, well, that's what I have available right now. If you can't make it, I apologize. My other times, And so it does allow, like Hannah said, to have those. In a way, it's not a hard saying as much as it is communicating, I have these priorities, and you are a priority, and this is how I want you to run alongside us. So it does give you an ability to say no, which I think is in movements. I can't remember who was saying that on the Movements podcast, but he said it's not as much about doing a bunch of good things and everything you say yes to, as much as intentionally saying no to good things and staying focused on what the most intentional things are. And I like, Chuck, your analogy of the Ferris wheel, of, the kingdom of God's like an amusement park. There's many different rides that people are running to, and this and that and that roller coaster, and Chuck says, I'm on the Ferris wheel. He goes, I'm going to be on the Ferris wheel. And that Ferris wheel is following Jesus. Entry, gospel, discipleship, church leadership. Entry, gospel, discipleship, church leadership. Follow Jesus. He goes, if you want to come, you're more than welcome to jump on that Ferris wheel with me. But I'm not going to go chase all the other million things in the amusement park. I'm staying right here. This is what God's called me to. And I feel like having a rhythm helps you communicate that to your disciples. And it's helpful on an iron if you sit down with your disciples, like talk through your rhythm. And like, what do you do on Mondays? What do you do on Tuesdays? You can see real quick why they're burnt out or why there's nothing getting done because there's nothing they're aiming for. So I think Philip, you might be able to add a little bit on, specific time that y'all allot to certain activities.
Yeah, we've seen people be able to take a deep breath. We're primarily in a context that is people working full-time jobs. Honestly, most of our ministry is among pretty affluent people. CEOs, CFOs, NASA employees, engineer after engineer after engineer, financial planners. I mean, this kind of thing, not all of it, but our area is made up of a lot of that. And we were not giving an expectation for rhythm for a long time. And about 6 months ago, through a lot of wanting to pound our head against the wall, we finally just said we have to do this. And so we began to talk with those people we were leading to learn from them, even normal rhythms. One of the benefits for us on our team, it's not just, we're most of the time full-time ministry, raise support, that kind of thing. I say most of the time because there are different seasons where I do carpentry stuff. But then also my brother and his wife, full-time raise support. And then we have a couple who's with us for 6 months who are missionaries to the Middle East, but they're with us. And then we have a couple, Travis and Jenny, who we've talked about, who he's full-time Air Force. She's full-time with Nationwide. They have an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And honestly, seeing more happen through them than maybe anyone, including us. And so the benefit of hearing even from them, if it doesn't work for them, it's definitely not going to work for other people because they have even more flexibility than most people because of his schedule. Anyways, through that wrestling, we nailed down, we just encourage people 7 hours a week. Those people who are working full-time jobs in the marketplace. And it just can't be wishy-washy. Other people around Houston are working with college students or young single adults. And they're able to be a little more loose, and we're like, it doesn't work for us. Because these people have to do their work, they have other responsibilities, and they have, a spouse and kids and their kids' sports and all this stuff. And some of it is encouraging, you gotta let go of some of that, to be honest. But the other part has been the expectation. So this is how we kind of define the 7 hours. We say 2 to 3 hours in a healthy church. A church aiming to be healthy is what Carter said is this for them. They're not leading this church. They're in a church, healthy. They're absolutely embracing the one another's. They're being an active part. They're not just a consumer. I don't know if that's healthy ever, but they are more being poured into and trained up through this church. Then, depending on their season of where they are with discipleship, we just say 2 to 3 hours of discipleship per week. The hope is that when you get multiple disciples, you bring them all together and that becomes a church. And now, when we gather as a church, that is discipleship.
Yeah, that's right.
So we just say, okay, you may only have one. You may have a season where you're doing 2 people, one here, or 2 here, 2 there. But ultimately, let's bring them together so you can have a really solid time of 3/3 and really investing in them all together. We think it's better even for them to bring them all together. And then 2 hours of harvest. Sharing the gospel specifically. Actually, I'm not going to put harvest because harvest includes discipleship too. And so I'm going to say specifically sharing. And this is highly oikos focused. So 2 hours could be who you invite to your house for dinner to share the gospel with them. Who are you sharing the gospel with in your workplace? Who are you sharing? This is 2 hours of intentional time. There's also as-you-go time. And it just becomes a lifestyle, right, of discipleship and sharing the gospel. But these things, I think, have helped Chuck and Amy. Chuck, he ran so hard the first time we began training him for 2 months that he ultimately had to stop. 6 months later, God opened the door and began training him again. One of the first things I showed him was this. And he was like, I literally watched him take a deep, relieving breath because he so badly wanted to be about this. He just couldn't see how it worked at his time. And so this has helped in those beginning stages, you know, as you're leading more and God shows what it needs to look like. But this has for sure helped people to set up healthy expectations.
Oikos sharing, is that always Oikos?
No, it could be going out, but we are trying to exhaust Oikos before we take people out on House of Peace search and that kind of thing. And also I should say, I'm glad you said that, we would include in this sharing within a geographic area with new people, like going out to an apartment complex or whatever, but we're telling them, invite them into your church gathering. We just see House of Peace search is very specifically to start new work, new churches started, and they may not be at that place yet. So they may need to share and invite them into, especially if it's closer to where they're meeting, is how we look at it. And then there may be a season, this church becomes critical mass, all these things, and then there could be a season of they might be the person who's being sent out to start new work or other people. It's just how we look at it. So I shouldn't just say Oikos, it's just, but that's a focus for sure.
Like place
So,
and
sharing.
people of influence that you're
You got it.
connected to.
You got it.
That's good.
Yeah.
So why don't we just maybe break it up into groups that we were in earlier and just talk through the rhythm in your week. And this may be like old news, Carter and Phillip, we've got this, done this. But I think this is important to talk through and articulate so that we can, not just for our sake, but for our disciples' sake, to show them, yeah, no place left, we got urgency, Jesus is coming back, we're sharing the gospel, but we all are also operating within a healthy rhythm of rest and work. Jeff Sundell, he always says, we work hard, we play hard, we rest hard. And so we do want to model that within our weekly rhythm, and our weekly rhythm should, if we have God-sized vision, God-sized goals, what we spend our time doing in our week should reflect those goals and intentionality to accomplish them, or at least attempt accomplishing them. So y'all can break up and just walk through. If you want to draw it out or just talk through it, however that looks, talk through your rhythm and how that's intended on focusing on accomplishing the goals that you and or your team have. So.